So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'd like to seek the good wishes and the blessings of the devotees present today. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to continue with the wonderful pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. And in the Canto 7, chapter number 6. And let's read these two verses, very nice verses.
Pumsavasha satam hi ayus tadadam chajitat manaha nispavalam yad ashoratrayam sete anandam prapita muktasya balye keshore kridotayati vimsati jaraya grasta dehasya yati kalpasya vimsati. Every human being has a maximum duration.
Kamakshi, yes, please read.
Oh, I wanted to.
Oh, go on.
Go on, Aruna.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. Go on, read it.
Every other word you can read, eh?
No. Let her read it. My young sister.
Translation. Every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years, but one of who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years. In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully.
For 10 years.
So yeah, this is quite an interesting chapter. We come across this in a little detail in a minute. So this chapter is where Prahlad Maharaj instructs his schoolmates who are children of the demons. Prahlad preached to his school friends, one should use the human form of life from the beginning of childhood in bhakti to the Supreme Lord. And then he describes a little bit about the different phases of life. Kumara, which is 1 years to 5, Pauganda, 5 to 10, Kaishorya, 10 to 15, and then Yavana, which is youth actually. He is 15 onwards. Why bhakti from Kaumara? Why from the beginning? One may say that one can start bhakti in youth, in later in our life. Not even youth, maybe 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But the wise person understands that he may die at the end of any time, might die any time, right? We don't know. One may say that one can practice bhakti in the future life as well. So that's another argument, right? I'll do it, not this life, I'll do it next life. I'll save it for next life. However, human life is very rare. It is also temporary, but most meaningful, because if one uses it to perform bhakti and attain, most meaningful if one uses it for performing bhakti and attaining complete perfection. Yes, Rianj.
Prabhuji, I heard many times that in Krishna Lila they would tell at Kaumara he could Putana, Trunavartana, Shaktasura.
That's right.
Like that
Krishna's pastimes were divided into these 4 categories. Very good. So this is why some people say you should don't do bhakti. They try to put you off. Like Rianch, I'm sure he probably gets it from his relatives. Oh, he's so young. Why is he doing bhakti? But actually, that's the time to start bhakti. He's very fortunate because if you start it from a young age, it's much easier later on. If you start it late in life, we all know, right?
How hard it is to remember even a single verse.
So it's best to try to do as early as possible. And that's actually the duty of the parents, to teach, to train the children so that they start learning from a young age. Some people might say, you're forcing them. No, not forcing them. You're just encouraging them. doing our duty. It's very important to do the duty. And we have to understand this point about human life. Very rare. We don't know how lucky we are. It's like something like if one throws a ring into the Atlantic Ocean, and that ring has been swallowed by a fish, and the fish is eventually caught by the fisherman, and then the fisherman sells it to a shop who sells it to somebody else to eat the fish, and they find it and they throw it in the bin, and then when it's gone to the bin, some beggar comes and looks at the bin and finds this ring, and then eventually it comes back to the person who in the beginning threw it away. So it's so rare. The chances are very rare to get a human form of life. We're very lucky to get this human form of life. So let's make the most of it. Devotional service to Vishnu is natural because the Lord is most beloved. Master of the soul is everyone's well-wisher. Happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Therefore, it is better to spend one's time endeavoring for Krishna consciousness. So when one does take to bhakti, then we see the Lord opens so many doors, and he closes so many doors as well. He closes the doors to Maya, and he opens the doors to the spiritual world. Sometimes even when we're doing bhakti, there can be very challenging times. And that is also the mercy of the Lord. That's absolutely the mercy of the Lord. He wants us to work a little bit harder to become closer to him. So in every circumstance, bhakti is recommended. Whether we're happy or distressed, we know distress is going to come no matter what. We can't always be happy. So worship him when we are not happy, worship him when we're happy. Our time is best spent endeavoring for bhakti. And now we come to this slok. Every human has a maximum of duration of 100 years rather. But for one who cannot control the senses, 50 are lost in ignorance. 12 hours sleep. Of course, we don't sleep 12 hours, but when we were children, babies, we slept for maybe 20 hours. And then old age, we sleep very long. We would sleep for very long hours. So on average, it works out during our life, we probably will sleep about 12 hours a day on average. So half of our life, 50 years, is wasted. 10 years in childhood, we'll be playing sports and enjoying. 10 years in childhood, we would be playing, just not really fully conscious of ourselves, enamored by our parents' love, relatives' love, lost completely in that mood. And then 10 years up to the age of maybe 20, one is engaged in sports and playing. And then 20 years gone because of old age, from the age of perhaps 80 to 100. You can't do anything, invalid. And the remaining years, whatever's left, 10 years, we waste it in family attachments. So what time is we got left for bhakti? Nothing. It's finished. Life is just passed by and we wasted our human life. And this family attachment is really condemned. How can somebody who is filled with affection for his family ever give up their association? If we have so much attachment to our family members, what chance have we got to leave that attachment? He's like a silkworm who weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Attachments are like these. We have like the wife or husband who's kind and sympathetic, pleases her husband or wife. Attached to the children, they talk so sweetly, broken language, which is very pleasing to hear. Attachment to parents and one's children are very, very dear, of course. The daughter, especially dear to her father, usually, and is always in her mind. So these are the attachments can really entangle us. It's more than that, of course, but these are the ones that really are key. Although he's very careful not to waste money, he's in fact wasting every second of his life, and he cheats others for the sake of money. Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, one who can give up, therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? This is our position. Essentially, this whole slide summarizes our existence in this world. If we're attached, or if we're wasting our time, not engaging in bhakti. So it's very good that we're trying to make an effort. It's commendable, commendable. And then Prahlad Maharaj continues his preaching. Those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by material laws. So how to come out of this family entanglement? Give up association of such persons. Of course, that can be a little bit hard because you're living at home. But even if you're living at home, you don't actually have to completely immerse oneself in this association. Doesn't mean we become unfriendly or we stay out of the way. No, you're still there, but more the focus is on internally, especially thinking about Krishna, chanting, reading, like that. And perhaps even reading with the family members about Krishna. That will really help not just ourselves, but it'll help others as well. Taking shelter of the Supreme Lord Narayan or Krishna, no difference between the two. So those two are key things. And when we say give up association with parents, or with such persons who are attached to material things, if we take up the association of devotees, then that helps us break this barrier. There are no impediments to pleasing Narayan or worshipping him under any conditions. Our real eternal relationship is with him. The Supreme Lord is present everywhere. He is the transcendental supersoul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the cause of the hearts of living entities. A slight endeavor. This is such an amazing verse, statement. A slight endeavor in this direction, bhakti, will make this attempt successful. Whereas one will never be successful in pleasing his so-called family, society, and nation. Even if one endeavors to sacrifice his life, we can give our life to material connections. What is the use? No success. But just a little bit of bhakti will make us very successful. So we can see the difference. Therefore, Prahlad advises his classmates to show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers, and that will easily please the Lord. Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Lord. The sons of the demons, so they were inquisitive. They asked Prahlad, because he'd mentioned that he had heard all of this from Narad Muni. So they asked Prahlad that they only knew Sanda and Amarka, their teachers. So how did you meet Narad? Right? Very nice question, they asked him. Any questions from chapter 6? Yes, Riyaj.
Prabhuji, I have a question. That is there any difference between Narayana and Krishna?
Narayan is very much like Vishnu, very opulent, 4 hands, and he lives in Vaikuntha as well. Lakshmi Narayan. There's a little difference. Ultimately they are both, Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. There's a very good question, by the way. So he is also Vishnu Tattva. He is Narayan. Power is the same as Krishna's power. When we worship Lakshmi Narayan, we will go to the spiritual world. When we worship Krishna, we go to the spiritual world as well.
Prabhuji,
But just 1 minute, there's a slight difference. Krishna has 4 extra qualities that Narayan doesn't have. Do you remember any of those 4 qualities?
Yes,
Means
I do. One of them
name,
is playing
fame.
flute.
Yes,
of the
playing the flute. Nobody can play the flute like Krishna.
Name, fame.
No, not
No,
name fame.
no.
It's like Krishna's. Anybody else remember any other differences between Narayan and Krishna?
The way he stands in a three, the way
The
three
liberator of
Bhujangas.
demons.
Isn't it? No.
Yeah. Extraordinary beauty. Yeah, extraordinary beauty.
Extraordinary devotees
His devotees are super excellent.
and his pastimes.
And his pastimes. Yeah.
Excuse me, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, he is liberator of demons.
Yeah, he is. He is indeed. But so is Krishna. But Krishna, he can liberate them into Golok Vrindavan. That's the uniqueness of Krishna. Really extraordinary.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question. Okay.
And also you can have all the different rasas with Krishna. With
Mm.
Narayan, you can't.
Yeah,
Sakya rasa, dasya rasa,
yeah, very good. Very good.
madhurya.
That's
Yeah,
it.
well
That's
done,
it. That's it. Nice one. Okay, so we can do this verse 7:15.
Rishi karuna kanayastasya padad ubhayam ishvara dharmasya tattvam jnanam cha mamapi udishya nirmalam. Kamakshi?
Yes, thank you. I'm ready. Narad Muni delivered his instructions both to me, who was within the womb, and to my mother, who was engaged in rendering him service. Because he is naturally extremely kind to the fallen souls, being in a transcendental position, he gave instructions on religion and transcendental knowledge. These instructions were free from all material contamination.
Very
Hare
good.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the chapter name is What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. When Hiranyakashipu went off, so this is the answer that was given for the question that how did you learn from Narad? We only know these 2 teachers. So then Prahlad Maharaj explains. Sukadev Goswami explains. He goes into, when Hiranyakashipu went off to perform austerities, the demons were afraid and they fled, leaving everything behind. Thus the demigods plundered Hiranyakashipu's palace and captured his wife, Kayadu. Now, as Prahlad's mother was being taken away by the demons, demigods, the Narad Muni stopped them. The demigods expressed a desire to kill the child because she was pregnant, and they were thinking that this child will also be a demon. So they wanted to kill the child who was still in her womb. And Narad said, the child within this womb is faultless, is sinless. But not just that, is actually a great devotee. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. So because he's a great devotee, he's always protected by the Lord. So even if they try to kill the boy, Narad Muni said, you won't be able to succeed. Upon hearing this and accepting the words of Narad, all the demigods circumambulated Kayadu and returned to their kingdom. So they're really amazing, these demigods. Sometimes they listen. They listen to Narad Muni, who said, don't kill this woman. Narad took her to his ashram and said she could stay there until her husband returns. Kayadu's desire to give birth to her child after the return of her husband. So he stayed in her womb for a very long time. So this is Narad Muni This is Kayadu, the demigods capturing her, and Narad Muni is saying to Indra, don't do it. Narad instructs Kayadu. Prahlad's mother stayed in the ashram and rendered service to Narad with devotion. Narad gave instructions to both Kayadu and Prahlad, who was in the womb. His mother, however, forgot Narad's instructions, but Prahlad didn't. Prahlad told his friends that if they have faith in his words, then they can also understand transcendental knowledge. So a lot of things are based on faith. We have to have faith. We have faith every morning that we were going to wake up, right? Go to sleep, we're going to wake up. There's a case actually recently, one of our trustees of the charity, one of his relatives, only 24, I think, 24, went to sleep, didn't wake up in the next morning. It was really shocking. So we have that faith that I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to wake up. So if we knew we're not going to wake up the next morning, would we go to sleep? But we have the faith that we're going to wake up. So we go to sleep. So in the same way, if we have faith in this devotional journey, this bhakti yoga, we will attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That faith is very important. Knowing just like day will come after night, that from bhakti will come love of Krishna, love of God. One cannot imagine how a baby in embryo could hear Narad. But progress in spiritual life and reception of spiritual knowledge cannot be obstructed by any material condition. So this is the amazing thing. Even the baby can potentially hear, understand spiritual knowledge. It's a very powerful instruction, this one. The material body undergoes many changes: birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and then death. The Atma refers to the Supreme Lord or the living entity. Sometimes it can be used interchangeably. And both of them are spiritual. And they have the following 12 qualities. Right? This is the Atma as well of the Lord and living entity. Some of these only apply to the Lord. But anyway, this one, free from birth and death, applies to both. Free from deterioration. The soul will never deteriorate. It stays the same. It's free from material contamination. We know the Lord is, but the soul is as well. Soul is individual, as is the Lord. And he's knower of the external body. So we know to a certain degree our body. Of course, we don't know it fully. We don't know how the hair grows or the nails grow. We don't know the mechanics. But we can see and observe. They are the foundation or shelter of everything. So this is the Lord. It's a shelter of everything. Free from material change. The soul is also free from material change. Self-illuminated. Of course, in this material world, we're not so self-illuminated. But in the spiritual world, we would be self-illuminated. The cause of all causes. So this is the Supreme Lord. In one sense, we are also the cause of this material world because we desire to be away from the Lord. He created this material world for us. So in one sense, we are the cause of this material world. All-pervading. Of course, the Lord is all-pervading, but we are all-pervading in this body. Right? We can sense the whole of this body, generally speaking. But our pervasiveness is a bit little. Lord's is complete. They have nothing to do with the material body. And hang on, let me use that. Yeah, that's 12.
11.
That's 12.
For birth and death, I suppose.
Oh, yes, 11. Okay. Something's missing. With these transcendental qualities, one who is actually learned can give up the illusory concept of life in which one thinks, I am this material body and everything in relationship with this body is mine. So these are the qualities that help us distinguish ourselves from this material body. Very important qualities to have. And we can only get this by practicing bhakti. And in this age of Kali, the easiest way is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So what is the soul? The soul exists as observer. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. There's 8 external energies: Prakriti, Mahatattva, the false ego, and the 5 sense objects. And then there's 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. Then there's the 16 transformations, which are the 11 senses, eyes, ears, etc. And the 5 gross elements. So these, the soul is above all of these. Above all of these. And also there are 2 kinds of bodies for every living being. Does everybody know this? We know, do you know we have 2 types of bodies? Everybody knows?
I thought it was, we've got 5.
Which are the 5?
The material, the mind, the I don't know. There are 5 of them.
You're right in one sense, because, and anybody else? Anybody else? What are the types of
Sthula
bodies?
sarira, sukshma sarira, Prabhu.
Sorry?
Sthula sarira and sukshma sarira.
That's it.
So say that in English.
Hare Krishna.
Hang on, let Uma Devi finish.
Yeah, I was translating in English for her.
Oh, okay, go on then.
Thank you. Subtle body and the
Gross
soul.
body. Good,
Yes,
good, good.
gross
Yeah,
body, yes.
that's
Gross
good.
body, gross
That's-
body, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. So, for example, the gross body is made up of these 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the subtle body is made up of 3 different elements. So in one sense, you're right, it's actually 4 things, right? The body, and then you got the mind, intelligence, and ego. But those 3 things, mind, intelligence, ego, are regarded as the subtle body. You can't see them. That's why they're called subtle. So the subtle body, we have 2 types of bodies, the gross and the subtle. The subtle is what is carrying the soul out of this gross body into the next body. So it's important to understand this. And we need to separate ourselves not just from the gross body, but the subtle body as well, because we are not the mind, intelligence, or false ego. So this is quite important to understand. Intelligence can be perceived in 3 states of activity: wakefulness. Sorry. Yes, Madhusan.
No, I was just going to say, is that why we have, in computer language, we have hardware and software?
Good point. Yes.
And
yes.
hardware is the hardware, the screen and the hard drive and the computer and the mouse and keyboard. But the software is something you can't see, or the programming, and obviously there's more in the human body than that, but it's hardware, software, subtle and hard, gross material differences. Yeah.
Good. Yes. Good point. Good point. Very good example. So 3 states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, right? We all experience wakefulness. We all experience dreaming. We can't experience deep sleep. We know we've been sleeping, but we can't actually experience it because we are in deep sleep. That's real mode of ignorance. Paramatma perceives all 3 states. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aroma it carries, one can understand the soul by these 3 divisions of intelligence. These 3 divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the 3 modes and are born of activities. So that's a little complicated, but essentially what he's explaining is that our intelligence can be of 3 types: wakefulness, dreaming, or deep sleep, governed by the 3 modes of material nature. Deep sleep means ignorance. Dreaming means passion. Wakefulness means goodness. So we want to try to be at this level as much as possible. Wakefulness, goodness. At the level of goodness, we can understand things much better. Not quite as they are, but very close to it. Polluted intelligence entangles the soul into material existence, which is like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers. Therefore, one should take to Krishna consciousness to dissipate the ignorance which causes material existence through the performance of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is emphasized again and again and again and again. So important. Okay. The process of Bhakti Yoga is a performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops, and it includes the following. So this is a really nice summary which Prahlad Maharaj gives to the students of the demons. One must accept a bona fide spiritual master, must take a guru. Very important. The guru can help one become close to Krishna. Must render service to the guru. No point just taking a guru and listening to him. That's good. But if one does service to the guru, then one gets vigyan. From hearing the guru, one gets gyan. And when one renders service onto the guru, one gets vigyan. Whenever one has, whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, understanding that nothing belongs to us. In the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord. Hear the glories of the Lord with faith. Glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord. Meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and the Guru. Interesting. Should actually dig that out. Interesting. Okay, thank you. By these activities, the results are, there's secondary results, there's also primary results, and then there's the ultimate result. What's the secondary result? So performing bhakti, automatically we cut down the influence of enemies, namely lust, anger, and greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. And when we are thus situated, one can render service to the Lord much easier. But what are the main results? We get loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. As a result of which, we develop symptoms of this love. It's called rati. Different types of loving signs come. Hair stands on end, voice falters, shed tears, sometimes singing, sometimes dancing, sometimes laughing. All these things happen. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination. And because of his intense bhakti, material desires are burned to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. That's called bhav. So this is all the result of performing bhakti. So it's between here and here, 30 and 36. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The real problem is the repetition of birth and death. By constant bliss, one feels in bhakti, this wheel of transmigration is stopped. Therefore, one should meditate upon and worship the super soul in the heart. Everything one enjoys within this world is temporary. So what is the benefit of trying to enjoy these opulences? So sometimes we run after temporary things that were not going to last forever, at the expense of doing something which will benefit us forever. And that's bhakti. So we're not saying don't endeavor for these temporary things. Of course, you have to have food on the table. You have to go to work and earn that living. But if it completely consumes us to the extent that we forget about bhakti altogether, any devotion to the Lord, then what is the use? Wasting our human life. Although a materialistic person continually acts for economic development, he is constantly frustrated and gets results the opposite of which he desires. This is karma. This is karma. When we do something, we're going to get something back. When we offend somebody, we're going to get it back. If we're nice to somebody, we'll get that back as well. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one is not endeavoring for happiness. This sounds so unusual, doesn't it? Whenever we endeavor for happiness, we always end up in unhappiness. But as soon as we forget, let's forget about trying to be happy. Let's just do our duty. Then just by doing that duty, happiness comes. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his distress begins. Why? Because we're trying to look for happiness in a place where it doesn't exist. This world is temporary and we are permanent. So that just doesn't go together. The permanent can never get happiness in the temporary. One makes many plans for the comfort of the body, but the body embraces the living entity and then leaves him aside. That's called death. And then the final message of this chapter: follow in the footsteps of the devotees and serve the Supreme Lord. As the super soul, he is the most dear. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to him, not by being perfect brahmanas or demigods or great saints or perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning, or by charity, giving charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness or vows. Those things are fine, but they won't please the Lord. What pleases the Lord is bhakti, unalloyed, unflinching, anytime, any place, without motivation. Therefore, perform bhakti to Govinda, for he is the ultimate goal of life. Everyone can perform bhakti and revive their original, eternal, spiritual existence. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, what happened? Let me just see, where would I put the... Oh, strange.
Lessons.
Yeah, lessons. And where'd they go? Just one second, I try to find them. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Canto 7 Ki Jai. I'm sure I had them in here. Any questions or any comments? Yeah, got it. Good. Okay, if not, Indulekha Maji, would you like to read the lessons?
Is she there?
No, she's not here.
Oh,
Shall I read?
yes, you can.
I would love to read. Yeah? Lesson 4, Canto 7, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam of Godhead exists within the heart of every living being and is prepared to give bhakti yoga to everyone, but one must be capable of receiving it. Since our consciousness can be changed by spiritual education, we simply have to carry out the order of the Supreme Lord to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. After long austerities and penances, one may obtain mystic powers which eventually are vanquished, but the powers obtained by the mercy of the Lord are never vanquished. By their pious activities, some souls are promoted to the higher planetary system, thinking only of the enjoyment. But it is stated that there is no peace or prosperity in the three worlds without this disturbance. It doesn't always happen that good parents get perfect children or vice versa. Good and great personalities can appear even in the demoniac family. Similarly, demoniac personalities can take birth in a pious family. Thank you.
Thank
Srimad
you.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Malaji. Madhusun Prabhu.
Jai Haribol, Jai
Hare
Shri
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. So chapter 6, we should note these comments in Sri Prabhupada's purport that when Sanatana Goswami submitted to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his first question was, Ke ami, kene amai, taritapatraye. In other words, he wanted to know his constitutional position and why he was suffering from the threefold miseries of material existence. This is the process of education. If one does not ask, who am I? What is the goal of my life? But instead follows the same animal propensities as cats and dogs, what is the use of his education then? So, and also in chapter 7, to understand God and the devotees by the parampara system is the process of knowledge. There is no need to speculate about God and his devotee. One should accept his statement of the bona fide devotee and thus try to understand. Just as the demigod accepted Narad Muni's reason for letting Kayadu go free. So, there's obviously, unless we ask ourselves, where am I and what am I doing? What is my purpose? And try and find out that even Lord, Sanatana Goswami asked this question. So that's real education, actually. So we're fortunate we are studying that and we're getting that kind of education through this and Prabhupada's mercy. And but whatever pure devotee say, then we have to accept. So when the Kayadu was being kidnapped or taken away by demigods, when Narad Muni explained that, they just accepted demigods, at least to that extent. But it's quite surprising that demigods are in the position to sort of plunder and destroy the Hiranyakashipu's palace and everything, and quite kind of like a revengeful thing. But they, the demigods are demigods. So there we are. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Very good, very good. So let's stop. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Canto 7 ki jai.